So hello and welcome. My name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with Helen Nibs on contacting the spirit worlds. So Helen is a medium, an energy worker, the founder of Ripples of Light, originally from the UK, as I found out. She's got a UK accent, but now living in Oklahoma. She's passionate about helping people feel connected to their soul purpose and achieving their best life. Helen's been working in this field since 1999, quite a long time. She's worked for over 22 years in corporate America. Currently, she has a group coaching program and is developing spiritual development online classes. Her website is ripplesoflightok.com. And this will go out with the podcast, these links. So hi, Helen.
Hi. Hi, Steve.
So when you were kind of born in the UK, I'm sure you didn't grow up thinking, I want to be a medium. None of us really do that kind of thing. How did you start getting interested in all of that?
Well, I kind of a roundabout route, like I'm sure everybody does. When I came to the US, I have a family background of people working as registered nurses, of RNs, and I was like, I really feel drawn to helping people. I'm drawn to health issues and what can we do? But I didn't feel like I needed to go down that path. And I heard about reflexology, which is working the hands and feet to different pressure points, which can make changes throughout the body, impact the body. That's the premise. So I was doing that, and I was working a fair, and there was a lady a couple of tables down who was doing Reiki, and I was like, oh, what's that? So I went and asked about it. And she said, well, funnily enough, I'm doing a class in the next couple of weeks at my house. Come by and take the class. And so I did. And, I always joke with people and tell them that Reiki is a gateway drug, because you end up like going in all different directions. I think when you take a Reiki class, it really opens up stuff for you. And that's what it did for me. I was doing this Reiki class and working on this lady I'd never met before, who was probably in her 50s or 60s. And as I was holding my hands over her, all of a sudden I started seeing pictures and images in my head and getting these messages. I'd never done this before. I had no idea what was going on. But I told her what I saw, and she started crying because it was something that had happened to her probably like 3 decades before. And first of all, that was an amazing miracle, for me, and that just really seemed to open the door for me. And I think a lot of these things happen in divine timing. People are like, oh, I haven't done it since I was 3 years old. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Perhaps these things just happen on their own time when you're ready. Because I do think there's an element of when you're ready to serve that comes in with that as well. So the reason that her age and the length of time made such an impact for me as well was that message helped her to release and address an issue that she'd been holding for so long. And that was a profound healing for her. And it really just opened my eyes in that moment of how healing and how messages can be so impactful and help us to move forward from a place that we're so hurt and we hold on to that. And so that was such a shift for me. So that's kind of how I got started with it. And then after that, I just started taking a lot of classes and having a lot of questions, and it's just gone from there.
So my brother's a medium, and I kind of know a large part of the work he does is kind of proving the existence of life after death. Mm-hmm. But when you get all these beings coming through, and I've been to many spiritualist churches, can you say what they've told you about the spirit worlds? What kind of life do they have on the other side?
Right, and great question. And so I think the biggest message is the feeling of unconditional love and being limitless. I think sometimes when people come for readings, they do ask, they're like, what are they doing? Another question I get asked a lot is, does for example, my dad on the other side, does he think I should do this? What does he think I should be doing with my life? And I do treat each reading, I think, like a little bit like a learning experience, because the one thing I don't feel from the souls is that they're sitting up on their cloud, if you will, saying, oh, well, you should do this and you shouldn't do that. And, because they've moved on, they don't have that human compulsion or judgment anymore, to say what we should and shouldn't be doing. They are really seeing it from a completely different perspective, and they're much more detached from it. So I feel that is where they are, more in a much more detached place. It's not that they're not interested, because they wouldn't come back and communicate with you if they didn't love you, if they didn't have a connection with you. But I don't feel that they have that human desire to perhaps meddle in things. Now, they will tell you, they will show me images of stuff you've been doing. So they will show me an image of like perhaps the person like going through their closet and sorting a load of clothes out. And so I can be like, hey, your mum knows you've just been sorting out a load of clothes to take to the charity shop. But they say that just to say, I've come and checked in with you, but they don't tell you what to do. I think that's the biggest difference.
Does it take a big effort on their part to come and connect with us? That's the first question. The second one is, do they ever act as guides rather than just popping in saying, hello, here's a message and going away? Do some of them stay with us and keep an eye on us more consistently?
I think that they do. Some of them do more than others. You know, I think sometimes that they will, and it can depend on what you're going through in your life too. If you are going through a really difficult time, then they may be coming and checking in with you more frequently than when you're going through a really great stretch and they're like, oh, they don't need us, they're good, we've got our own stuff going on. So I think that they can do that. I think that when they have, for example, when they've immediately passed, you could be so wrapped in grief that even if your loved one's sitting next to you on the couch, you won't necessarily feel it because you're just so insulated with grief, you may not feel it. So sometimes you will feel it more than others, but I think that can be due to your emotional state as well. I'm sorry, I forget what exactly you asked now, Steve.
Do they do they come back as guides?
Guides,
And
right.
yeah, do they come back as guides?
Now, different mediums will tell you different things on this. And so I'll just give you my take on it. I think that we come into this life with spirit guides. I don't necessarily think when your loved one passes, they come back as a guide per se. But what I do feel like we can feel them as, we can feel their presence, and that can be a guide to us, but I don't know that they are necessarily a guide per se, like a spirit guide for us in this lifetime.
Right. And the other bit of the question was, does it take a lot of energy for them to connect with us, right? You know, is there a kind of energy it takes to kind of cross over to this world?
Certainly, because, you know, our energy is kind of at this level and their energy is up here. And so we've got to meet in the middle. And that's what the medium helps to facilitate, because we raise our energy up so that they can kind of connect. And that's why we get that. But it does take energy for them to do it. It certainly does, to get those messages over. Yeah.
Do they ever speak about heaven, hell, God, these kind of terms that we hear in religion, or heaven realms or hellish realms or God or higher beings? Do they ever speak about that?
Those things I would probably say I ask my guides about more than I would ask someone coming through in a reading. I will tell you, I don't, and this is me personally, other mediums may say something different. I don't see hell. And you know, and I had an interesting discussion about this with the Church of England vicar actually when I was back in England last year, because I was like, you know, what's the church's take on some of these things? I don't think we're all necessarily going to the same place. But I will say that my intent always when I work is I work in the light. So with the hell aspect, I'm not focusing on working there. So I don't concern myself too much with it. I'm only working with the light and beings of the light. Now, I will say that people who pass, and this is a very common question, there are people who've passed through suicide, murder, they've been severely depressed, they're not passing in a good state of mind, if you will. And a lot of the times their loved ones will be like, oh my gosh, are they lost? Where did they end up? Are they in hell? You know, and I don't feel that that is the case for those people. That is really what people are asking about most of the time when they ask that. I feel that, and this would be ideally the case on earth too, when someone is struggling with so many issues and they're so emotionally upset, what we should do is provide them with more love and more support to help them feel better. And I feel that that's how it is on the other side. I do feel like when they pass and they've been struggling so much, they're provided with extra assistance. I have seen souls that are surrounded by animals on the other side. And to me, that is like, animals provide unconditional love. So if someone has been so traumatized in this lifetime that they cannot accept love from human beings, then they can perhaps accept it from animals. And so that's how sometimes I see it. So I do feel like, it's kind of like when you get off a plane, instead of just going through general arrivals, I think there's some souls when they cross, they're like, oh, come on, you need to come with us. And they take you through to a special holding area, if you will, till you get just that little bit more healed. They're providing extra support. So that's one thing I always do try and reassure people. If your loved one was suffering so much, I feel they're getting extra support on the other side. I don't feel that they're being punished for it.
Brilliant. That's a great area, actually. I didn't think about that. Suicide and murder, because there is some line of thought. I mean, I did go to a spiritualist church once, and someone, a relative of a relative, an in-law's father who committed suicide, came through and said, I'm fine. I was like, wow, because the church has all this idea of, people who commit suicide go to hell. It's an old Christian idea, isn't it? But someone who's murdered, is there a period of or suicide, is there a period of confusion or being lost for a while before they receive help? Do they speak about this, that or are they able to straight away go and get that help?
I feel it's an immediate transition, because I always tell people this. So, when you're at an airport, I guess I'm on airports today. When you're at an airport and you've got those arrival boards and you see what planes are coming in, to me, it feels like that on the other side. So even if we don't know that we're about to pass, the other side do. They're like, hey, look who's coming in this week. So they will be there, because I'm just like, I don't feel anyone passes alone. Even if it is what we would say as unexpected, it isn't to the other side. And so I feel that they're always there and they're ready to provide that support, and just to be present.
Brilliant. I know you mentioned animals, which also triggered a thought, because I mean, I've loved at least 2 cats in this lifetime, deep, love pets. They go across and they also can be in the spirit worlds. Is there a divide between human and animal spirit worlds, or is there an interaction, do you feel, across the other side?
I feel it's one in the same place, which is just as well, because if it wasn't, I don't think half the population of the world want to go there anymore. So, so I see it together. I don't see any separation.
Oh, well, that's good to know. I'd love to be reconnected with those cats.
Right.
Do you find that, because in some of the churches I went to years ago, the messages were all kind of practical. Check the bottom drawer in your bedroom and tidy up your house. It was kind of very practical. Is a lot of the messages they give practical, or is some of it almost like spiritual advice?
Oh, that's a good question. I do feel it is more. I hadn't thought about that as in terms of spiritual advice, but that is a great point. I wouldn't say I get it in terms of spiritual advice, but I do feel that they like to, yeah, certainly provide practical stuff. They like to give messages that are of use. They like to give messages that basically prove that they are still aware of what you're doing. And they like to just say, I'm still popping in and checking in with you. I still know about stuff. I still see what you do, okay, that sounds like kind of creepy stalkery, but you know what I mean? It's just like they're doing it in a loving way to say, oh, I know about this happened. I know you're looking for a new house. I know you've moved since I passed. I know there's been, they'll say, I know there's been a new grandchild to the family, and thank you for using my name as the middle name. They'll say things like that, and it's just, so it's not necessarily spiritual guidance, that I would say is the most common thing, but it is just little things to let that person know that they are still listening and that they're still part of their lives.
Thank you. Great. And another question I just thought of just now is my father's side, my father and that side of the family have been very active in the spiritual worlds. I feel them, they come in and chat, they chat to my brother. My mother's side, hardly anything. And I kind of wonder, why is it this side is really connecting and that side isn't so much connecting? Is there a reason for that?
No, and some of it can kind of come and go. You know, you might feel particular members of your family more frequently than you do others, and that can switch. It just depends. And sometimes it's depending on what perhaps you need to hear at that time, but it can be also what they need to communicate at that time. If you have a family member or a friend who, because I do believe we review things when we get to the other side and we look back and we see the impact that we've had in others' lives. So if they are doing their life review, if they will, and they're looking at stuff going, well, I think I owe Steve an apology, they might want to come through and just say, just acknowledge it. And just to let you know that's like, wow, okay, now I can see that and I can see the impact it had. So they really are seeing it from a different perspective. So they can come through for all different reasons. And sometimes, in readings, the first one or two people that I get come through to give a message are not necessarily the ones that they expected or had even been thinking about. But it can be someone who made an impact. Like, for example, if someone comes through and they're just like, yeah, if someone comes through reading and they're like really wanting to hear from their mom who's passed away, but the first person comes through is this person that they were at school with who committed suicide when they were at school, and it had a massive impact on their life. That might be the person who came through first, even though technically you could say, well, that's not the closest person to me, but they may have had a huge impact in their life.
Brilliant. The other question, maybe I've just got a couple more questions for you. What about people who recently passed? Because I've heard that if they've recently passed, they need a period of time to adjust and whatever. I mean, I think time is another aspect, isn't it? The time in their worlds must be very different, I imagine. But is it true that there's an aspect of time you need to give them some time, certainly time from the earth plane point of view, to assimilate and come back?
I've heard that a lot in mediumship classes, and I would say for me, it doesn't matter at all. That person can communicate instantly if they want to, usually for the person. And but just liken it to going on vacation, if you will. Sometimes you're just like you're back on the plane. So you get off the plane and you're just like, oh my God, I've got to call my mum. I've got to call her. I'm going to let her know I'm here. Okay. Then I'm going to go and unpack and I'm going to go down to the beach. But first of all, I've just got to let her know I'm all right. So sometimes I think they do have that kind of mentality. It's just like, I'm here. I'm fine. I'm all right. And then they go on their merry way for a little minute. So you may hear from them initially, or you may get a sign. Sometimes people are like, oh, I saw a rainbow the day my loved one passed, or whatever that sign was for them, or felt a sense of peace, or however it comes in for them. And then sometimes people don't feel anything. And I'm like, it is as different as we are. Everything is so different and unique. And, I just want to say, don't panic if you don't feel like you've felt anything instantly. It doesn't mean to say that they won't come in with something. And it may be that you're so grieving that you just don't feel it, or you just can't acknowledge it right away. But you will get it. But no, some souls do come in right away with a message, and some don't. It really can depend. It's all very individual.
Someone feels a relative is around them wanting to say something. I mean, yes, they could go and find a medium like yourself and get that kind of intermediary. Is there any advice you can give someone who wants to open themselves to the spirit world? Simple advice they can do to feel more connected?
Absolutely. And it just always floors me, whenever I'm talking to people, and they'll be like, oh, I don't know. Okay. But people will tell me all the time, I woke up and I felt my loved one sitting on the bed, or I saw a flash of my loved one in the hallway, or, and so they are very much, a lot of the times people are very much aware of their loved ones. And they're not afraid because it's their loved ones, now, and they have that desire to see them. Now, whether they want to see my grandma, no, they don't. There's no desire to do that. Perhaps you've got to be a medium to want to do that, but they absolutely can connect. and can feel that connection. You know, it's just talking to your loved one and just saying, you know, I would love it if you could show me a sign that you're with me today. And you can leave it open and then just see what comes through. Or you can say, you know, for example, if your loved one was really into music, just say, or that's something you shared together, say, hey, let me hear a song today that reminds me of you. Or, you know, if they were really into cars, you know, just say, show me, you know, if they had a classic car, let me see the classic car that you used to drive today, or let me see your initials on a license plate. You know, you can do all these things. Now, I would say don't ask them for 47 different things in a day, because they're just going to be like, I can't do that. Just ask them for perhaps, you know, one thing a day or something. And the other thing is to journal it or to write it down. You know, if you see it, write it down. And if you start to see those messages like consistently, you can be like, okay, I feel I've got my own little thing going on. Because the one thing that we do as humans, I think we ask for a sign, we'll see it and then go, oh no, I must be just imagining it, you know, or just making it up, or well, that was a coincidence. You can just imagine our loved ones on the other side like, oh my God. So I feel like that they do try and get those messages through, and it can be something you could see or hear, or it could be something that you smell. Like if you are walking along, you know, or you're at work and all of a sudden you smell your mum's perfume, you know, then you just, oh my gosh, hello, mum. Yeah. So it can come in all different ways. And so I would say just be open to how it comes, and just accepting to yourself that they haven't really gone that far. So there is a possibility that you can still have a bit of a conversation. I know it's not the same as when they're here, but you can still have that communication, because they come back because there's a connection between you. Like people's great grandparents don't come through to talk to them because there's no connection there. So it's people we've known in this life that we have that connection with, that are going to want to come back and have that continued conversation with you.
And we ask them for advice. Hey, I'm dealing with X. What do you say? Can they have that perspective? Can we ask them for advice?
We can, but I think that it's very important to remember that we are still living our own lives here, and we shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't really put all that on a past loved one. Even if they didn't answer all our questions when we were here and everything, we still have to be very much responsible for our own lives here, and we have to make our own decisions. And, you know, and I do think that we can think to ourselves, well, you know, what would my spouse have done in this situation? We know that. So, you know, but the thing is, we have to make our own decisions now. So that is one thing I do get asked, and was like, you've got to make your own decisions. You've got to take your own road. They're not going to tell you what to do.
So Helen, my last question is, can you say something about your work at the moment, what you're into, what you're doing?
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah, so I've worked as a medium, you know, for a long time. Still do Reiki. It still always amazes me who's doing the energy healing and how that affects people. So I still love doing that and teach classes. But I'm also branching out now into doing some group coaching program. So this will help people to work on their own spiritual connection and to build that and feel more confidence in it. Because, you know, going and getting a reading is fabulous, and I do that myself. But I do think an area that we all need to work on is working on that confidence and developing our own abilities, because I think we all have them. And so we can start to be perhaps more present in life, and to be more open to our own paths and to our own possibilities.
Helen, it's really lovely speaking with you today, and thank you so much, and enjoy Oklahoma.
I will, and thank you, Steve. This has been great, because I've been listening to your stuff for a long time, and it's wonderful.